Everyone, today we're going to do an unboxing video for Cartographers and Roll Player plus all the expansions. First we'll start with Cartographers. This is a game designed by Jordy Aiden, and I've already opened this, so let's get into it. I'll go over the components real quick. First up, you get a pad for drawing shapes. And if you look, there's some mountains. The mountains have some coins on them. When you surround them orthogonally, you will earn the coins. There's runes. When a rune card is played, you need to cover it with the next shape that follows. And at the bottom, there's a score pad, or the scoring conditions. So if you look, and this focuses, which is not going to do very well. In the first round, it's A plus B scoring conditions plus coins minus any squares of monsters that have not been covered. And then that gives you your total. And then at the end of the 4 seasons, you total everything up in the bottom box there. Each of these is double-sided. So if you look on the second side, there's a big chunk in the middle that you can't place over, and you also can't place over mountains. I forget if I said that, but anyways, next up in the box is the manual. So it's Cartographers, a role player tale. You have pencils for drawing, and then you have the cards. So each of these corresponds to scoring conditions. Then there's scoring condition cards. So for this one, the Stoneside Forest. And when you earn reputation stars for having mountain spaces connected by forests. On this one, you earn 8 stars for each cluster of 6 or more village spaces. So that's a pretty big one. For the water, you have 2 stars for every water adjacent to a mountain space and 1 for every sand. And then finally, these ones are for meeting certain shape conditions. So you earn 6 stars for each complete row or column of filled spaces. And then there's the seasons. So in spring, you score A plus B. In summer, you score B plus C. In fall, you score C plus D. And in winter, you score D plus A. Time at the top is how many turns before you score that round. So on 8, 7, and 6. You have monster attacks, and the monster attacks, depending on if you're playing solo or in multiplayer, will be handled differently. In solo, starting at the top left corner, you have to place a shape, and then you have to follow this pattern until you can place it. For this one, it's top right, and then go in a circle. Now, if you're playing with multiple players, you ignore this top part, and literally you follow this circular pattern, and I will hand it to the person that is counterclockwise to me, and everybody else will hand it like that. And then these are for drawing shapes. So you can draw either a green or a red following this pattern, which can be rotated or flipped any way, and it costs 2 time. This one is only red, 3 spaces for a coin, or 5 without a coin, and it costs 1. And then the rune space, like I explained, if you draw this, the next card afterwards is what you have to draw. So that's Cartographers. Now in the Cartographers expansion, we also have this card, which is used for Roll Player. It's a backstory card. So we'll add it to that for the reboxing later of Roll Player. Next up, we have the Roll Player game. This is designed by Keith, and I apologize if I pronounce this incorrectly, Motejka. And this is a dice game of fantasy character creation, which basically means it's just a dice puzzle with a fantasy theme. So I've already opened this and played it a couple times. This is the rulebook, the catalog for buying more stuff from them. character sheets, and the punch outs actually had like things that you use for this game. So on your character sheet, you have if you're male or female. On the flip side of this will be female. Your race, which is dwarf, and that doesn't matter. But what it does matter is you get a +2 for Constitution and a -2 for Charisma at the end of the game. On the left side is where you put your alignment card. On the right side is your class card and your backstory card at the bottom. And then it shows you how to score. And then you would place your weapons here, armor here, traits here, and skills on the left side. And now there's a bunch of different races. There's human, elf, halfling, orc, and dragonkin with the base game. Now, normally these would all be in separate baggies, but you get a bunch of dice. So there's 7 different colors. I'm missing green. So each one of these will correspond to certain conditions on your backstory card and your class card, and placing them in different positions will give you different bonuses, which I'll bring up in a second. Gold will give you 2 extra gold to spend on your turn to buy different equipment. So bringing up the character sheets again, for the strength, when you place a dice, except the original starting dice, you can flip a dice from one side to the other. So a 1 becomes a 6, a 2 becomes a 5, so on. For dex, when you place there, you get to swap 2 dice locations, and they have to be dice on your player board. You can't swap with empty spots. For Constitution, when you place there, you put a +1 or a -1 to any dice face. Intelligence lets you reroll. Wisdom allows you to move your alignment token, which I haven't gotten to yet. And Charisma gives you a $1 discount on the shop for that round. Alright, other things that come with this game are point tokens. Those are coins for use for purchasing things. And those Charisma tokens. Colored cubes, 1 for each color except for gold. Purple, red, white, green, blue, and black. Alignment cards. So as you see on this one, and I'm not going to show each one, in the center is where you start the cube, and different cards will tell you to move it in different places. If you hit it on the left-hand side, you can earn 1, 3, or 1 points. And on the right side, you earn -1, -3, or -1 points. And in the center, you earn nothing. There's a bunch of those. Those are dealt randomly in the beginning of the game. There's some initiative cards, and depending on how many players will depend on how many of those you use. Basically, those are determined for who gets to purchase when. Point scoring cards, which are also your play sequence cards. You use a point scoring at the end of the game. Your class cards. So these are double-sided, and you pick a dice at the beginning of the game. Whatever color that is gives you what class. Each class can only be used once. So once green is used, there's no more green characters. So for the ranger, getting exactly 14, 15 in strength gives you 2 stars. 16, 17 gives you 2. 18 Constitution gives you 4. Having a 14 or more gives you 1 star. 15 to 16 in Wisdom gives you 2, and 14 plus in Charisma gives you 1 star. And then you also have an ability like gain 1 gold after a skill card is used. There's a bunch of those. I'm not going to go over every single one of them. I'll be here forever. But that's, and then you have your backstory cards. So for this one, you are the Lost Soul. Forgive me if I didn't have those. I think I had those in the frame. If I didn't, I don't really care. Alright, so if you have a purple dice in the strength row in the second spot, then you earn a star for that, or potentially a star. You have your dex in the red on the first slot, you get that one. And so on. If you meet all of these conditions, then you get 6 stars. If you meet 4 to 5, you get 3, and if you get 2 to 3, you get 1 star. And if you only get 1, then you get nothing. Alright, and that covers all the backstory cards. Next up is market cards, which I will only go over one of these. because they all follow basically the same principle. So, like that. Take one card out. Alright, so chain leggings. It costs 3 coin to purchase on your turn. This is a 1-star item as denoted by the dot in the card corner there. So there's 2 dot ones that are worth more, and you take a certain amount of these out at the beginning of the game so that you have it randomized every game. It's part of the chain set. So if you earn all 5 pieces of the set, you get 10 stars. And if you're a red or white class, you get an additional star. And that is effectively what most of these cards do. Some of them, I'll go over one more example. Maybe, yeah, one more example. So negotiate. Negotiate. This one, when you use the ability, you have to move your alignment token to the right, 1 space. And then it allows you to modify initiative dice. This is a 2 dot item, which means it's more powerful. That's about all that you need to know. The rest is kind of self-explaining as you play the game. I'll go over the Monsters and Minions expansion next. Alright, now we're on to Roll Player, the Monsters and Minions expansion. It is also designed by Keith Matejka. And again, I apologize if I did that wrong. Manual. Another catalog. Some more classes. I'm not going to go over every single class in any kind of detail, but they have the Wrathborn Construct, Bastia, Gnome, and Dark Elf. There are new kinds of dice. These orange ones are used for combat. They add a few more of the normal colored dice so that you can add a 5th player. And clear dice that go from 3 to 8. They do not count for any of the colors. The little clear tokens are used for counting experience points. It gives you a 1st player token. This is used for tracking your character at the end of the game if you want. I'm not sure if I'll ever use that because I really don't care. It gives you some more coin tokens. Wound markers that count for -1 combat dice at the end of the game. And then these are called location, objective, I think, and attack. And what those will correspond to is certain monsters. So if you give me a moment, I will pull this out of this mess of cards. Okay, so a few more here. Okay. We will go over the giant troll cards. Alright, so there's an obstacle, location, and attack cards. And those are set up at the beginning of the game once you choose a monster. You'll shuffle these, take one randomly from each kind, and you can discover these in the game, and what it will give you is an extra attack dice for the end of the game. So in this case, if you know what this is and you complete it, you don't have to know it for the end of the game, but as long as you complete it, you gain 2 combat dice for each green die in your dex attribute row. So if you happen to stack 3 green dice in your dex row, then you get 6 extra combat dice. Each one of these will do a different action. And then that helps you for defeating the bosses at the end of the game, which I'll go into in a minute. They give you some more alignment cards, which I'm not going to go over. They give you how to gain gold. Each player gets one of those, and on the back side is how to spend experience or gold. So I will not go into because I have not played this, so I'm not familiar with it. And they give you some new play sequence and gold experience trackers. This goes up to 55 stars. New play sequence. And then the monsters. So this is the Chimera. For solo play, you use this one. For team play, you use this one. No, sorry, I got that backwards. For solo play, you use the higher health one. And for 2-player, you use the lower health one. So 2-player plus, sorry. So for this one is during monster combat at the end of the game, rerolls cost 2 experience instead of 1. A little clear dice. And then you, depending on what your roll is at the end of the game, is how many stars you get. And that's pretty much it. It's just more ways to accumulate stars for the end of the game. And then they also add some minions, are called. So this is a giant rat. You get +1 die for each blue die in your character sheet. And then, based on your roll, you kill that. And you get extra things. So this gives you 3 clear cubes when you defeat it at 10+, and you get 1 honor. And honor is used, I believe, for extra dice at the end of the game. And that is Monsters and Minions. I have not played it, so I'm not going to go in depth of anything, but that's a generic overview. Alright, next up is the big box. Alright, next up is the Roll Player big box, which also includes the crap, I don't remember what it's called. Fiends and Familiar expansion. So this allows you to use this one box to store everything from all 3 games. And I also bought a storage solution to help set up the game and be able to make the setup quicker and easier. And it all sets up in this one box, so that's fantastic. 3 games in one. Alright, so as per usual, rulebook. More character cards. Now these are unpunched as I haven't played this yet, but each one comes with some coins, some tokens to punch out, some tokens that go in the garbage, and then there's different classes, the Sheki, Saurian, Vargar. Don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm not going to bother trying. And then some familiars. These are additional ways to place your dice, and when you use them, you get special abilities. Again, I'm not going to go over this stuff as I haven't played this expansion, so nothing to really go over too well that I understand. But there's a bunch of different kinds. And a couple that fell out of the box. That's fine. Alright, some insert that's garbage. Some new monsters to fight. Inside of this is also, actually we'll open this up real quick. So, new play sequence cards. Like I said, new monsters, a bunch of different ones, Gorgon, Cyclops, Griffin, Hydra, that's all good. More combat dice, because we don't have enough combat dice, so I'm not going to open those up. More experience point tokens. And this one here, okay, we'll bring out 1 dice. They're called split dice. So it counts as a white and a black in whatever spot you place it, but they go from 1 to 4. Which, yeah, there's 4. And that's the highest they go. I'm not going to take all those out, but that's the generic idea. Alright. They have some new location attack obstruction cards. New Fiends. I will open one of those up really quickly. I apologize, there's not much room right here, so I'm just going to have to. There. Alright, so Fiend of Arbitration. This, I don't know how this works, but you cannot place dice in your familiar row unless you get rid of this. So there's a bunch of things like that. They're bad. You don't want to use them. But you have to use them. I don't know what these are, but oh, that's how you understand actually. Alright, new initiative trackers. So that you can play with 5 people. And then the ones that have the word fiend, you put fiends on them when you use them. New classes so that you can have a more variety of choices to pick, but you still only use each die once. New backstory cards, new minions. I'm not going into all of that. And then another deck with a few more items. New items, leather, chain, mystic. These are all ways to complete sets, but the sets are harder because there are now more items. You can banish Fiend card with this one. Oops. New traits, which I didn't go over, but basically they're just another card. And that's about it. I can't really go into much detail. Like I said, I don't know this expansion, so I'm not much use here. But I will, however, when I get everything put away, put everything into the appropriate containers and show it being reboxed so that it takes up less space, which I think is exciting. Space is a premium when you play board games, so having something that takes up less space means you can have more board games and your wife gets less pissed at you, or significant other, or your friends when they come over and they want to play a game and they have so many games. Now there's a few less because they're all packed into nice individual boxes. Anyways, in the next portion, like I said, I will go into how to repack this into the big box. Thanks. Alright everyone, this is the reboxing portion of the video, and we're going to be storing everything in the big box for Roll Player using the folded space organizer system. So first up we have all the cards divided here. These are the market cards divided between the 1s and 2s. Next up we have the Fiend cards. Divided between the 1s and 2s, they're just separated in the same column. Next up we have the backstory cards, and finally the class cards and the player aid cards. So we'll just store that in the back of the box. Alright, next up we have the alignment cards, Fiend cards, locate and adventure cards. And those go in here. We have the coins next, and the experience cubes. And those just go in here. We have the adventure cards. They just go in here. On top of the adventure cards, we have the first player token and the split dice. And then the bag of dice go in here. And then on top of that we have the honor tokens and wound tokens. They go there. The adventure tokens and the charisma discount tokens. We have the 2 sets of battle dice for the end of the game. And we have the bonus dice. Finally, you put the player character cards on top of that, and then the familiar cards on top of that. And with everything in here, you have just enough room for the adventure tracker, and then finally the manuals on top of all that. Okay. Alright everyone, and that's the full video for the reboxing and unboxing of Roll Player. Thank you very much. See you next time.